go.
Hey, what's up, everybody, and welcome to the Get Your Bell Rung Football Podcast. He is Kevin Reynolds. I am Bobby Wall, and we are here to talk all things football and hit you with some takes that might rattle you up a bit. Tonight's show, we will dig into what the future might hold for each team in the AFC North. How you doing, my friend?
Oh, doing well. Could you hear my phone vibrating just there?
Oh, you're a busy man. You're like Adam Schefter.
It doesn't stop. But yeah, I'm doing well. Got a little rain tonight, so I got to come home, get a couple rackets strung up, take care of a couple things, and sit here and talk to my fine bearded friend.
Yeah, and we apologize to our listeners who've been waiting for this episode to come out. We had a delay. It's my fault. My girlfriend is, she's the creator of Diaper Dust, if you haven't heard about it. And she had to go out of town for a business deal down in Dallas. And she was gone from Wednesday when we normally do the show until tonight. And I didn't have anyone to watch my little man. So we had to delay this until now, but we'll get you with 2 episodes this week. And we apologize. But I tell you what, Kevin, we have a listener question to start this out. You ready?
Yes, sir. I didn't know that. So this will be fun.
Yeah, of course. And I like this one because every single human being who plays fantasy football deals with it. Well, unless you get one of the top couple of tight ends. But the question is, if I don't get one of the top tight ends, what should I do?
We pretty much covered this when you spew your hatred towards Dawson Knox, and we talk about any of the other tight ends. I mean, if you don't get one of the top ones, you wait till the 9th round.
And that's almost exactly my feelings on it. So for me, first, it depends on who you think, like how many quote top tight ends that you have. My top 3: Andrews, Kelsey, and Pitts. Then I have Kittle, Schultz, and Waller, but are they really considered the top guys? But even with any of these folks, I don't want any of them unless I get them at a value. So just like quarterbacks, I don't mind waiting on a tight end. And if I find myself, like you just said, rounds 8 to 10, and I'm looking at TJ Hawkinson or Dallas Goedert or maybe even Zach Ertz, I might pull the trigger there.
Yeah.
After those guys are gone, though, it is basically a positional punt for me. And here's why. So Mark Andrews was tight end 1 last year, and he scored 30 more points than Kelsey, who was tight end 2. Well, Kelsey scored almost 50 more points than Dalton Schultz, who was tight end 3. Kittle was 7 points behind Schultz. But then from tight end 5, who was Zach Ertz, through tight end 13, which was Pat Freiermuth, there was only a difference of 22 total points, basically 1.5 points per game. So there was a larger gap in scoring from Andrews to Kelsey from 1 to 2 than there was separating tight end 5 and tight end 13. So really, if you don't get one of those top 3 tight ends, there's no point in wasting a top pick on anybody else.
The draft value is not there. Yeah, you're wasting it for no real reason. My legal record, of course, is auction. Years ago, I was waiting, let other people spend all the money on these tight ends. I ended up getting Jonnu Smith and He Who Shall Not Be Named, both for really cheap. And I just started picking and choosing week by week. It's almost like streaming people from my own team. Like, got them both for a decent price. Who you playing this week? That looks like the one, of course, after about week 3. Jonnu Smith was a year he did really well, and He Who Shall Not Be Named did his usual 1 catch for 7 yards. So it wasn't really even a debate, but that's the general point. So even if you're in a redraft league, wait till the 10th round, get one, get another in the 11th round, stream them within your own team week to week, whatever you want to do.
Who are some late tight ends? Like if you decide to punt, who are your late guys? Jeez. After the Dawson Knoxes, after the Freiermuths?
So after, so people like Irv Smith, maybe they're going to pass. How healthy he's going to be. Njoku, Tunyon, they're still saying how healthy is he going to be. he who should not be named. You never know. Gerald Everett,
Yeah.
Hayden Hurst, all these guys. It's just they're very hit or miss. That's the thing. You talk about how those guys are separated by a point and a half, but week to week they might be separated by 19 points because they're very, very hit or miss. Most of them are extremely touchdown reliant, and you just hope you play the one in the right week, the guy that gets 13 instead of the guy that gets 3.
Gerald Everett is, I'm glad you brought that name up. He's one of mine that I like getting in late. He's coming from one of the least throwing offenses, which was Seattle, to one of the teams that throws the most in the Chargers. And last year, the Chargers tight end Jared Cook, who's ancient Jared Cook, I think he ended up as tight end 16 or something like that. And Jared Everett is definitely better than Cook is right now at this point in their careers, and he's like a decade younger. So that's a nice little dart throw. I like him.
Gerald Everett right now, Fantasy Pros is he is tight end 21, going 165 overall. So that'd be roughly round 14 or so in a 12-team league.
And so you said he's tight end 21?
21.
He's my tight end 14.
Yeah. Just behind he who should not be named and right ahead of Tyler Higbee.
Gotcha. Higbee. I can't believe people still say his name.
A lot of these guys, they're all guys that at some point have had this big upside talk about them, and it's just not panned out. It's just not really still as much as tight ends are used now, it's still not a tight end friendly league.
Correct. All right. So you ready to jump in this AFC North? I bet you are.
Let's do it.
And I like the setup we did last week, where we talk a little bit about each team, and then we go in and cover the positions one at a time. So instead of doing all of the Ravens first, we'll talk about the Ravens as a whole, then the Bengals as a whole, and work our way down, and then we'll go all the quarterbacks, running backs, receivers. That cool with you?
Fine with me, brother.
All right, sir. Your Baltimore Ravens, they have the 10th best odds at winning the Super Bowl at plus 2,200. Even though they finished last in the AFC North last year at 8-9. They were middle of the road in points scored, but they were 6th in total yards. They had the league's best run defense, but they were 29th in pass defense. But we said before, a lot of that was due to injuries. They've added Kyle Hamilton,
Huge
Travis
plays.
Jones.
And big plays. So much of it was 70 yards here, 80 yards there. Those add up quick.
Right. And so they added 3 big-time rookies. And although they lost Hollywood Brown, they added some O-line help. And word on the street is your boy Lamar Jackson's beefed up so he can stay healthy this year.
It's not even word on the street. You can see pictures of it. He's looking bigger. Some people are talking about how he was looks like DK Metcalf, because DK Metcalf was even teasing about it on Twitter. He doesn't look that big, but he's definitely bulked up a little bit. Hopefully it doesn't affect his speed. Hopefully he doesn't blow a knee from the extra weight. But more than that, he just seems really pissed off, annoyed at everything. And I hope he just goes out and goes crazy. And I said, they came in last year, but at one point before 8-9, they were 8-3. They were the 1 seed in the league. They lose a game. L-Jax then goes out. And then from there, they couldn't win to save their lives. But it was all the defense. Even when Huntley was in there, the offense still was humming.
In a 2-week span, didn't they go from first in the AFC North to last? Something crazy like that.
No, because it was longer than that, because they lost 6 in a row. But they didn't go to last, but they eventually did. Browns eventually passed them, and the Steelers. I mean, it's a good division, and you lose 6 games in a row. I think good things aren't going to happen.
That's right. All right. Our Bengals, their odds are tied with Baltimore. They finished 10-7 and won the AFC North, and obviously are the defending AFC champions. They had the 7th most points scored and the 7th best passing offense, with the 5th best run defense. Most of their additions, as far as their team goes, came along the offensive line, which was a big weak spot for them. And I brought that up on our Old Faces, New Places episode a few weeks ago. With a solid offensive line, Joe Burrow quarterback, and all these offensive weapons, this is going to be a tough team to stop.
That it is. They're going to be.
I think their win total is only at 8.5, though. I was listening on Sirius XM Fantasy Radio today, and they were talking. I think they said the Bengals win total. I have to look it up, but is set at 8.5.
because it's the Bengals. They have to earn more respect than one Super Bowl loss. A lot of people think it was a fluke that they even made the Super Bowl still. And I guess they're going to get their chance to prove people wrong, aren't they?
They
Don't
sure
know
will.
why they can't. I
The
take that over all day long, wouldn't you?
yes. Oh yeah, for sure. The 9 wins. Yeah. I mean, they
Yeah,
don't
that's
even
nine
have
and
to be
eight.
as good as they were. They could get worse this year and still get it.
Well, that's the thing. They make the Super Bowl, lose it. They didn't really lose anything appreciably, yet the odds makers are expecting them to win less games.
Don't know, my friend.
Yeah.
Speaking of winning less games, the Cleveland Browns, they currently sit at plus 2,800, but once the Deshaun Watson suspension is official, I'm sure that those odds will drop. They were third in the division at 8-9, obviously same record as the Ravens, 27th pass offense, but they were fourth in rushing offense. They had the 5th best pass defense and the 12th best rushing defense. So they got a solid D coming back. And because of that, they didn't really do a whole lot with it, but they did remake the offense. Out with Baker Mayfield, in with Deshaun Watson, in with Jacoby Brissett, out with Jarvis Landry, in with Amari Cooper, and in with rookie David Bell. And then they are out with their former tight end Austin Hooper. It's a shame, though, to have all these shiny new wide receiver weapons and Amari Cooper and David Bell without a stud quarterback to throw him the ball. Because Watson, I'm sure, is going to be suspended. I mean, I can't imagine it'll be less than a year, but now he's saying he's going to sue the NFL if it is a year or more.
He
So who
didn't
knows how
say it.
that's
His
going to play out?
lawyer said it. His lawyer
Well,
said they
right.
already have the whole thing. All they have to do is submit it, that it's already written up, drawn up, and they'll submit it to federal court the
I
second
just
that
can't.
comes
I
out.
just can't believe they burned that Baker Bridge, because if this team looks completely different with Baker Mayfield as a quarterback
I
compared to
agree.
Jacoby Brissett.
Talk about a scapegoat for all your problems. I mean,
Yeah.
you see these memes all the time, like with this whole debacle. Could you make it an even more Cleveland Browns decision? is, is there a team in the league that you would expect to botch this more? I mean, the Texans recently have been pretty rough, but compared to the Browns and their lifetime of this, it's just sort of status quo. It's par for the course for the Browns. It's not really a surprise that they would find a way to completely bungle this whole thing. But
It's
if
a
he doesn't
shame.
get a year, man, there's going to be a lot of people that have been
Oh yeah.
suspended. Like Calvin Ridley, he's suspended for a year for betting $1,200 on a game that he wasn't in, and yet this guy goes around doing what he's accused of doing, and you're just going to let him off. I don't know
I mean,
how.
I know it's a different sport, but Pete Rose is still banned for life for betting on his own team to win every game he was
Yeah,
coaching.
it's madness. And people
Never
say,
once bet
well,
against.
some I heard someone the other day said to me, a friend of mine, we already suspended all last year. Like, no, not really. He's on the commissioner exempt list. He got paid like 20 some $1 million to go on vacation all year. We should
That's
all be so
correct.
lucky to be kicked out of our jobs and still get paid for them.
Kidding. All right, sir. Last team, the Pittsburgh Steelers, they have the 23rd worst odds to win the Super Bowl at plus 9,000. They finished last year second in the division, 9-7-1. How about that tie? They were 15th. So they were 15th in passing offense, but they were 4th in passing attempts. So they were not very efficient. They were 9th in pass defense, but running the ball is really where we fall off a cliff for Pittsburgh. They were 29th in rushing offense and dead last in rushing defense. That is not very steel curtain of them. For the first time in 2 decades, basically, there's a new quarterback in the Steel City, as most likely Mitchell Trubisky will be getting his second chance at a starting gig. And it's going to be very interesting to see if the Steelers can fix their defensive woes and how a new man at the helm will pan out. I'm actually going to – do you just want to skip the Steelers talk? Because I don't feel like hearing you yell and curse.
The only thing I could say about the Steelers is in the NFL, you need a viable quarterback.
I think we'll get to Trubisky. We'll get there.
Yeah.
We'll get there. But we're going to go back to your Ravens, and we're going to start with them and their quarterback, Lamar Jackson. He is one of the best fantasy quarterbacks of all time. He can run, he can throw, and everything that the Ravens did in the offseason, such as adding offensive linemen and not adding receivers, points to them planning to return to their 2020 philosophy of running the ball 150 more times than they threw. Normally, this would be a bad thing for a fantasy quarterback. but this is good news when you have one of the most dangerous runners in the league behind center. And in 2020, the Ravens were dead last in passing attempts, first in rushing attempts. Lamar missed a game, and he was still a top 10 fantasy quarterback.
Yeah, I expect big things from him this year. Like I mentioned earlier, I think as much as anything, he's just really pissed off and wants to show the world what he's got. And I think he's going to. I still wish Greg Roman would get lost. I wish they bring in somebody else that runs the same basic offense with Lamar, but can at least have a little razzle dazzle there, mix something up once in a while. Lamar's problem again is if you and I are watching the game, calling all the plays, then certainly defensive coordinators around the league know what's coming. And to me, that's a problem because no matter what your skill set is, this is the NFL, and you're not playing, Alabama A&M. You have to be able to do something to confuse the defense, no matter how good. But I think he's going to be huge. I don't really ever expect him to repeat that huge year 2019. But if he can even come close, watch out for the Ravens. I mean, like I said, he was an MVP candidate last year when they were 8-3. Then he gets hurt. Right. They fall apart, come in last place.
And where's he for you in your quarterback rankings?
Where did I have him? Did I have him at fourth?
His current ADP is QB4. He is my QB4. So regardless, he's in that neighborhood for you as well, right?
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
I mean, he's safe. He's a safe pick.
Absolutely.
And he has week winning upside. I mean, he can go out there and get you 30 points any week.
He certainly can, my friend. He's a monster. It doesn't matter. He's just one of those guys in fantasy. You play him every week. You drafted him to play him. You don't sit him when he's playing the number one defense. He's out there because he might go for 34 gets. So the Ravens might lose, but he still might go for 34 points.
That's correct. Next up is Joe Burrow, and he was last year's QB8 and is looking like one of the pillars of the future of this league. Not many quarterbacks can lead their team to the Super Bowl in their sophomore year. He was third in passing yards a game, third in touchdown percentage, first in yards per attempt. And this is interesting to me, he was also sacked more than any other quarterback in the league. And I have no idea if any other quarterbacks made it to the Super Bowl leading the league in sacks, but imagine if the Bengals would upgrade their offensive line to keep Burrow standing. And then, oh, wait, they did. So this is exciting for him.
It is. They're gonna be sharp. They should score a lot of points. They're gonna be playing in some high scoring games, it looks like. And my big thing with him fantasy wise is he's not going to get you a whole lot of points on the ground. Well, what did he do? Did he run it all much? Do you have his numbers up right now?
He was coming back from his.
So yeah, they really didn't want him running. Well. But yeah, the leg brace is off now, they're saying. So, he's a beast. What can you say? I'd love to have him on any of my teams.
And I have him slotted in right behind Lamar. He's my QB5.
Okay. Yeah, I think when we had talked, I had him around like 6 or 7. It turns out I had L. Jacks at 4 or at 5, right behind Hurts.
Gotcha. And you mentioned the running, and it's tough to. Obviously, Tom Brady beats the odds all the time, but having a quarterback that doesn't rush at all, really, he had 118 yards rushing last year. Burrow did. Yeah. To have him ranked that high, because that's how fantasy quarterbacks, that's how they cash in their points. But he's great, and he has awesome weapons, which obviously we'll get to here in a minute. All right. The Browns quarterback situation, disgusting. Trading for Watson and burning that bridge with Mayfield we talked about has led the Browns to having to start Jacoby Brissett, and this is not good for anyone. All of the receivers need to be downgraded, and I'm even worried about Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt and the running game. Brissett has a 60% career completion percentage. He's never averaged 200 passing yards a game, and his career yards per attempt is 6.4. That is not good.
No, it's not. He's going 35th in quarterbacks right now. It's just not a good player. That offense isn't built for somebody like him who's just. It's funny to watch him play. You might watch a game where in the first quarter he looks sharp as can be, but then the next, second, third, fourth quarter he quickly shows his true colors.
If his ADP is quarterback 35, the last I checked, there are only 32
Yeah.
NFL teams. So I'm
Watson's
assuming
going
Watson,
19th, and nobody even expects him to play this year.
right? So who else is going? Who else is a backup that's going before? Oh, Kenny Pickett, I see, is
Yeah, he's
being drafted
26.
before him.
Yeah.
And then both San Francisco quarterbacks.
Mariota's starting now. So yeah, both San Francisco's. Mitch. A lot of people,
Jacoby
I guess. I don't know.
Jacoby Brissett is being taken at QB 35. QB 36 is Malik Willis. And there has been not one human being mention his name as being a starter.
No, I saw a report that he's actually been struggling learning the offense. But
Yeah,
I mean,
I think
going
we
from
expected
Liberty
that.
to the NFL,
Right.
that's I think
Right.
understandable. Yeah,
All right.
that's going to be a tough situation. There maybe isn't a team in the league that their whole season is predicated more than over the next week when this decision comes out.
That's right. And the last QB in the division, Mitchell Trubisky, in what was and still is considered a major reach. The Bears took the former UNC QB second overall in the 2017 draft. And besides a Pro Bowl nod in 2018, he's been mediocre at best. His career 64% completion percentage, and he averages 207 passing yards a game. Not great. For perspective, that would have ranked him 30th in yards per game this year, just in front of Davis Mills and Tua, who obviously I'm not too fond of, and especially in terms of fantasy. What I think might be a saving grace, though, was spending this past season as Josh Allen's backup in Buffalo. Excuse me. He got to see how an upper echelon signal caller prepares, and he was able to learn from then offensive coordinator for the Bills, Brian Daboll, who he's obviously the head coach for the Giants now. And he's joining a team that hasn't had a losing record since 2003. I graduated high school the last time the Steelers had a losing record, and they've only had 4 losing seasons dating back to 1990. They've one of the best coaching staffs in the league, and hopefully they'll be able to get the most out of Trubisky, and having a stud running back helps that out as well.
Because I think you and we've discussed Mitch a few times, that whole thing. We hope now that he's learned how to play quarterback in a proper place, it might help. And I'm pretty sure you and I are both fans of Mitch. Even though he's with the Steelers, I think you and I, we tend to pick certain guys that we want to root for. I'd like to see him do decent. I still want the Steelers to go 0-17, but I wouldn't mind if he did well. I'd be happy for the guy, and then maybe leave town and go to a team that I can stand. We'll see how. I mean, Omar Epps will coach him up nice. It's a great place to go if you want to play football.
If we're being
I'm
honest,
not touching him from a fantasy standpoint. I wouldn't take him for $2.
The streak of not having a losing season is really in jeopardy this year for the Steelers.
It really is tough division. Maybe should be tough, but you're right. You got to have the horses to pull the wagon, and they just, as an overall team right now, they just don't. And now they got to have this really weird name for their stadium that's going to annoy everybody. So I don't know what's going to go on up there in Pittsburgh. Hopefully terrible things.
Well, we'll see. Moving on to the running back position, my favorite, I think your favorite running back, your favorite fantasy position?
I don't know. I don't know if I have a favorite fantasy position. I don't know that I've ever really thought about that. What do you mean it's your favorite? What's your definition of that?
Because the first round is normally peppered with running backs. I think it's in general the favorite position because everyone's worried about the first pick. Everyone's worried about who they're going to take, and it's usually running back. Okay. So all eyes on the RBs.
Yeah, I don't necessarily think I have a favorite position, but I will admit that in the first round, maybe first 2 rounds, it is the most vital position because the whole no running back strategy, people always want to talk about, oh man, what worked for me? Okay, I get that, but look at the 9 other guys that it didn't work for. You can make it work, but it's not, from my experience, it's just not a super smart strategy to go with. If it happens to you, it should happen by accident, not that you're intentionally going in there and not taking a running back till the 5th round.
I agree. And so the Ravens, I'm assuming J.K. Dobbins is the starter. And all things being equal, And if he wasn't returning from injury, I would have Dobbins ranked in the very top part of my RB2 range. 2 seasons ago, he rushed for 800 yards and 9 touchdowns while averaging just 9 carries a game. That is 6 yards a carry. And man, you want to talk about efficient. But now there are rumors he's not going to participate in the preseason at all. Who knows if he'll be regular for the regular season? That's obviously muddies the waters of where you want to draft him. And I don't know if you saw the tweet today.
I did.
But yeah, so go ahead.
He's pissed too.
Yeah, he's angry. Tell us about the tweets.
Which one was it? Was it Rappaport? The rap sheet came
Ian
out
Rappaport,
saying that his reports are hearing he's not going to be ready. He'll start the season on PUP, blah, blah, blah. He had this happen to his knee, that happened to his knee. So then Dobbins got wind of that and just got around there like basically sort of Will Smith slap in the face, shut your mouth. You don't know what you're talking about. I'm ready. My rehab's way ahead of schedule. I will be on the field in week 1. Don't really care what you say. Why don't you come talk to me yourself, big boy, or something like that. It wasn't the kindest of retorts.
He wasn't mixing his words.
I guess don't like when some little skinny little runt like him runs his mouth and you're not even on the field, doesn't consult you first and just pulls that routine. But I mean, doesn't matter. When he comes back, whether he's starts on PUP or not, he'll be the starter. But Gus will still play just as much.
And that's a problem, right? That's the Nick Chubb Kareem Hunt deal.
Oh, it's a problem from the fantasy world.
Correct.
For the Ravens. It's glorious. It's like Cleveland. You got 2 viable starting running backs, fresh the whole game. But from fantasy, yeah, it's tough. It's tough. There are guys you don't want to have to start every week, maybe at flex, but you can't rely on because you don't know what they're going to get. And then basically their running backs 2 and 3 anyway, because L-Jax is really the starting running back.
And Dobbins is so good. I want him. I wish he could have a featured role because he really is talented. And you mentioned Gus Edwards. For Gus Edwards, my notes, I just wrote C.J.K. Dobbins because Gus Edwards was also very efficient.
Yeah, he averaged, I think, in the high 5s in yards per carry. You got one guy averaging 6.1, another one averaging 5.8, 5.9. Boy, that's just sickening in the NFL. That's not supposed to happen.
Well, my nightmare is if what happened last year happens this year, because they also signed Mike Davis. And so in my notes for Gus Edwards, all I wrote was C. J.K. Dobbins. And for Mike Davis, I wrote C. Devonta Freeman, C. Le'Veon Bell.
Right.
Because it's all the same. It's
rumbling, bumbling, stumbling.
Yes.
That'll just be shenanigans. So, man, if they got those two backs, those 2 speed backs, wow. The offense will click. But
yeah. Well, let's move from one team that has a difficult backfield to figure out for fantasy purposes to one that there is no question. Our guy, Joe Mixon, he was 3rd in rushing attempts last year, 3rd in yards, 16 total touchdowns for the guy, 42 catches on 48 targets. That's impressive right there. And there's no legitimate running back on the roster to steal touches. Samaje Perine, it's not happening, buddy. Now they bring him in on 3rd downs and to give Mixon a breather here and there, but that's it. And also, not to mention the Bengals pass game will leave his running lanes wide open. His current ADP is RB7. He is my current RB3. I am a little worried because I'm a numbers and odds guy. And, over the past 5 years, only 7 guys have repeated top 5 finishes for running backs. 3 of them, Aaron Jones, Dalvin Cook, and Derrick Henry, all did it the same season from 2019 to 2020. I don't see why Mixon can't be the next to do it, but it does worry me a little bit because the odds are not in his favor.
Right. I have him at 2. Okay. Man, the more I think about it, the more I want to put him at 1. I just can't quite pull the trigger there. But, man, I think he's just going to be a monster. If that offense, the way it goes, and with nobody behind him, barring the injuries, like you're saying, he's going to just he'll be in all the time. He's going to be a monster, absolute monster. He's going.
I love that.
The 8th running back taken. How?
Is it 8 now? So he went down since I checked.
DeAndre Swift going ahead of Mixon. That is about the stupidest thing I've ever seen in fantasy. That is just asinine. I mean, it's just stupid. I don't know how else to better put it. That's just one of the stupidest things I've ever seen.
So technically, right now with Fantasy Pros ADP, they're both averaging the 8th pick. So I think technically they're tied. But I feel you. I got it. Joe Mixon for me is way above DeAndre Swift, and I'm high on DeAndre Swift, but
Yes, you are.
it's definitely going to be Mixon for me. All right, Cleveland Browns, Nick Chubb. He is the man. I love this guy. He's a
You have a
3-time Pro
man
Bowler.
crush on him, dude.
I do. I'm crushing on Chubb, buddy. He's a 3-time Pro Bowler.
Good.
He's been in the league for 4 years. He's only rushed for less than 1,000 yards once as a rookie, and he hit 996. If he fell forward one time, he could have got 1,000 yards his rookie season. He flirts with double-digit touchdowns every year. The Browns love to run the ball. His only issue has been his running mate, Kareem Hunt, stealing his carries, especially around the goal line. And as a Chubb owner, I have watched many more times than I've wanted to. Chubb march the ball down the field and then get a breather when they get inside the 5. Since his rookie year, he's been RB16, RB7, 9, and 11. Chubb is always hard for me to rank. He's a top 3 talent, but his opportunity share negates the success he could have. And I posted this on Twitter and on our Facebook page. He was 27th in snap share for running backs, 2nd in rushing yards. His yards per touch, he was 4th. Juke rate, he was 3rd. Evaded tackles was 3rd. Breakaway runs, 3rd. All while being 2nd in the league when facing stacked boxes. So the defense knows he's getting the ball, and it just doesn't matter. Imagine what he would do with a role like Derrick Henry or Jonathan Taylor. I mean, it would be insane.
Yeah, I think the Cleveland should just get rid of Kareem Hunt. Get what you can for him while you still can, and let Chubb run. I've had Chubb only once since he's been in the league, and it's so frustrating to see him break off a 20-yard run, then a 15-yard run, then a 7, then another 20, and then they take him out so that Hunt can get a little 3-yard swing pass and score. It's just
Kareem Hunt is the bane of my existence.
He gets more points on that one play than Chubb gets for taking the ball the whole way down the field. It's frustrating as all hell, but the dude, you're right, talent-wise, he's one of the probably 5 best backs in the league. For sure. And some people say, well, part of that's because he's always fresh, because he always, he has his fresh legs, because he doesn't have to be a workhorse back. Well, I can buy that to a point. But talent is talent. You either have it or you don't.
That's right.
I don't know, man. He said one I'll take, but that's the thing. Him over some of these guys that have to share backfield, I'll still take him all day long. I'll spend plenty on him, because you never know when he's throwing out a 40 burger for you in a given week.
Right. And it's not like Kareem Hunt's bad either.
No, he would start on most teams in the league.
Right. I mean, so and think about it, and this is exactly what we're talking about. Is last year Kareem Hunt had 78 rushes because he dealt with injuries and stuff like that. 78 rushes. He had 5 rushing touchdowns on only 78 carries. I mean, I don't know how many carries Miles Sanders had, but he had 0 rushing touchdowns, and I know he had more than 100 rushes. And it's maddening. 2 years ago, even with Nick Chubb being a top 10 running back, Kareem Hunt was also a top 10 running back in half-point PPR. And I mean, how about the Texans? Can we trade Kareem Hunt to the Texans or the Falcons? Can we do that?
A lot of sense. Get what you can for him now while he's still young and a stud. But
can you imagine Kareem Hunt on the Bills?
No, that'd be just glorious. We saw what he did with the Chiefs. Led the league in rushing as a rookie. And then the second year, before he decided to make some bad decisions, he was made the number 1 or 2 pacer, because I had him in Mahomes right from the beginning. So I'm just lighting up points, because how many times a game does he just throw him this little dump off, and Kareem Hunt just starts sprinting around somebody, jumps over another dude, then bowls somebody over into the end zone. It was just double points left and right for him. But man, when Hunt got suspended, that whole Chiefs offense sort of sputtered then, and he's a beast. For the Browns, it's great. They've got them both on decent contracts. For football, amazing. For fantasy, trash.
Awful. I hate it.
Yeah.
Where do you have Chubb? Where do you have Nick Chubb? Do you know off the top of your head?
I have him. I haven't made my official rank. It's still too far away.
Gotcha.
But he'd still be in my top 12. Definitely. For me, he's definitely a RB1. Because you never know week to week how he's going to be used. One week he might actually be RB1, but the next week he's RB17. because he put up great numbers but didn't get the score.
I have him at 11 right now, but that's because of Kareem Hunt, but also Jacoby Brissett. I mean, he faced the second most stacked boxes last year. He's going to face the most stacked boxes this year because no one
he
is
seems
going
to
to be
be
afraid of
stacked box proof. Here's the real
If
question now. Have you made your decision regarding Mr. Chubb in your league of record?
I have not. Real quick before we get to that, right now I have Nick Chubb at 11, but I can tell you if something were to happen and the fantasy gods would lighten my life a little bit, and Kareem Hunt would be traded, Nick Chubb would jump up into the top 5 for me.
Okay.
For my running backs.
I think for most people, his value would shoot through the roof.
Yeah. So your question about my league of record. So we do a 1-player keeper league, and that player comes at a 2-round penalty from where they were drafted the year before. So Chubb's rookie year, I think it was, I took him in the 11th round. So I used him as a keeper in the 9th round, and then it was the 7th round, and then the 5th round. Well, now this year, if I choose to keep Chubb, he's my 3rd round pick, which is good value, right? He's going usually 2nd round, right?
Yeah,
But I drafted Deebo Samuel in the 7th round last year. So Deebo would be my 5th round pick this year. And I think for the first time since Nick Chubb was a rookie, I think I'm going to have to let him go. I think I'm going to have to go Deebo as my 5th round pick over Chubb as my 3rd. But I have some time to figure it out. I don't have to.
I was going to say, when do you have to know by? Because Deebo could decide at the last minute he's not playing, or he refuses to run the ball, or he refuses to run the ball in the game and they suspend him. And it's obviously by then you have already kept him, but
I have until mid-August to decide.
This is a little touchy situation.
I know, especially my love for Nick Chubb. It doesn't help anything.
Yeah.
Hey, I got a lot of love for this next guy too, and that's Najee Harris. He is my current RB5. He is coming off a season where he led the NFL in touches with 381, including 74 catches on 94 targets. He had more catches than most running backs have targets. One thing that hurt him was that so many of his rushes came between the 20s. Harris only had 29 carries inside the 29 or inside the 20. So once they got to the red zone, that was it for Harris. Jonathan Taylor, who led the league in rushes inside the 20, had 89, 60 more than Najee Harris, basically 3 times. I mean, I have no idea why Najee Harris did not get more red zone touches. Myles Gaskin had more touches inside the 20 than Najee Harris did. So although his 7 rushing scores is respectable, I'd be more inclined to think that number is going to rise. Surely they're going to run the ball near the goal line more now that Big Ben is out enjoying his retirement. Harris is still going to get over 300 touches. He's still going to get a ton of targets. He ran 25 routes per game last year. So it's tough to not project him as one of the best fantasy running backs on planet Earth. I know you like that. I mean, the dude had 10 RB1 weeks last year and only 3 weeks where he's outside the top 30. That is high floor, buddy.
This is the highest I've ever heard you talk about him. Typically, when we speak of Najee, all you do is talk about all of his poor stats. And
this is what happens when I get to dig into the numbers for the week.
Okay, so you've had a change of heart on him then all of a sudden, or?
Well, I think I had him at RB8 when I first did my rankings, and he's up to RB5 now. So yeah, I was still high on him, just not as high as you were at the time.
Okay. Yeah, he's a beast. He'll put up his numbers. He's going to be on the field constantly. I can't really say the quarterback change is going to hurt because Ben was trash last year.
Not great.
So yeah, I don't think that's going to hurt. Hopefully they will use one. I've never understood the Steelers' philosophy of let the running back move the ball for you. Then when we get to the 20, let's just throw endless, just slants, endless fades into the corner. I don't really get it, especially when you have a quarterback whose arm's a wet noodle. I don't really get that. So maybe they'll have some common sense. I have him at 5. As much as I hate him, I'd love to have him on the evil Decepticons and kicking some butt for me.
Yeah, he's a stud. He's going to be a stud. All right, Moving on to pass catchers. You good on running backs?
Absolutely
All right, sir.
fine, sir.
Your Ravens, Rashad Bateman. I love this guy. As excited as I am about Bateman, I am that unexcited about every other wide receiver on the Ravens roster, which helps with my Bateman excitement. 7 of the 12 games, Bateman had at least 6 targets, but he only had 1 touchdown. So he had 7 games of at least 6 targets. He only had 1 touchdown. So now after trading away Marquise Brown and his 145 targets, Bateman is the unquestioned wide receiver 1 for Baltimore, and there will no doubt be some positive regression in terms of his scoring. His only obstacle is going to be the run first philosophy of the Ravens, but Lamar Jackson can still support a wide receiver 1 in this offense. Just look at Marquise Brown the first half of the season last year. Dude was balling out. And as a side note for Bateman, in week 17, he primarily went up against Jalen Ramsey. He ran 27 routes. He had 10 targets, 7 catches against Ramsey. So the dude can do it against the top competition as well.
I don't think targets will be a problem. I think, didn't we discuss a few weeks ago, Hollywood was like 10th in the league in targets and Andrews was 12th. So along those lines. So that won't be a problem. But
the Bateman haters, that's what they're saying. Oh, they run the ball every play. Well, that's
because they haven't actually looked into numbers, and actually anybody can say it. It's like all these morons online that just, because ESPN tells them this is the Ravens offense, they think they know it. When you actually look at the numbers don't lie. You're not 10th and 12th in targets because you only run. It's a fact. That's not imaginary. It's a fact. My bigger problem isn't Bateman. When your number 2 guys, Duvernay, who's a Pro Bowler, actually all pro returner last year, but not really. He hasn't done much on the field on the offense. And then your number 3 receiver, most people can't even pronounce his name. I'm still not sure what it is, because I'll actually watch some Raven stuff online, and one guy's calling him Proche, another one's calling him Proche. One a few weeks ago just called him Proch. And I don't even know the guy's name. So that's a problem when nobody even can say that, let even know who it is, but even pronounce his name right. That's a problem to me. No death. What happens if Bateman twists his ankle and misses 7 weeks? Who are they going to throw to? Andrews can only do so much. It's a problem. There's no way. I'm going to say it right here and now. This isn't even a bold prediction. This is just a no-brainer. There's no way they, in week 1, going into week 1, that will be their starting 3 receivers. Not a prayer. They are going to sign somebody, and it might be a washed up over the hill receiver, but there's no way they're going to go into the season with that.
They have to.
They do. They have to. Even if it's just have a guy come in and teach them all how to play the game right, how to run routes right, how to read defense right, something other than basically 3 guys who it almost amounts to 3 rookies, 3 guys playing in their second season, and very little stats to even base anything on.
Yeah, right now I have Bateman as wide receiver 22.
That's maybe
it's high. I bet it. Well, let me check out the ADP real quick. I bet it's it's higher than ADP. 37.
89 overall.
I am way higher on him than consensus. But who do I want? The wide receiver 1 for the Ravens, or the guy that's going as wide receiver 36, the number 2 wide receiver for the Eagles? Juju Smith-Schuster's above Bateman. This is awful.
Well,
this is ridiculous.
Mahomes has to throw to somebody, but Renfrew's ahead of him. Thielen. I don't know why Michael Thomas is ahead of anybody. He shouldn't be ahead of me and you. Some of these guys make sense. And the guys that are behind him, it makes sense. There's nobody really behind him that's. But I agree. He should be probably higher than 37. But we just got to see. We got to see what he can do when he's the guy.
Yeah, but some ships I'm willing to be late on. Some I want to be early. This is one of those ones I'm going to be early on. And that's a strength that when it comes to drafting wide receivers in the later rounds, the mid to late rounds of drafts, it's one of my strengths that I have. And I know that going in. So when I get really excited about a player, I don't mind taking him way above ADP, because in the past it's panned out for me more times than not. But this will help you out. The Ravens, 9th in pass attempts last year in the whole NFL. 9th, top 10 passing. Top. Yeah, but But
Part of it's
that
because
goes
they were
that helps
behind
your
so
argument.
much and scoring such high scoring games, their defense couldn't do anything. But you're right. They pass way more than people think.
Sure. Yep.
Yeah.
And then the only other pass catcher I really care about is Mark Andrews, because like you said, the receivers, we don't even know their names. And Andrews, we don't have to say anything. He's a stud. Last year's tight end one. He led the Ravens in most receiving categories. And I think him and Bateman is going to be a great 1-2 punch.
Yeah, they should tear it up. I certainly hope. I mean, I don't want to
Obviously.
say I hope that they have done well together. Well, Bateman not, but Hollywood and Andrews. So I'm hoping this works out. I hope Lamar stays healthy. I hope they run like crazy and pass like crazy and score about 50 points a game. It's there, man. They were unstoppable in 2019. Unstoppable. Nobody could. I mean, it was fun. It was like funny to watch them. Just I remember they played the Rams like on like a Monday night, and at one point they were up like 37-3 or something. It was just like men amongst boys.
Who won the Super
I'd
Bowl
like to see
that
it
year?
happen again.
Who won the Super Bowl in 2019?
Yeah, it wasn't them.
Well, so someone stopped them.
Was it the Chiefs that ended up?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was the year Chiefs won.
But who beat who? I can't even remember who beat the Ravens in the playoffs that year. It wasn't the Chiefs. Was it Tennessee?
We'll be able to figure that out. Oh, well, it might be because Tennessee is your bugaboo, man. They always had your number.
They're not my bugaboo. It's just that Earl Thomas is frightened of Derrick Henry, and when instead of tackle him, he runs away from him and beside him, so he doesn't have to touch him.
All right, let's see. You lost. Yes, you lost to the Titans.
Yeah,
The first round of the playoffs.
yeah, it is
14-3.
Oh, and I remember I put a thing on Facebook or something to Greg or to what's his face, John Harbaugh. Note to self: don't sit all your starters for 4 weeks before the playoffs.
All right, let's liven this up with one of probably the best wide receiver group in the game, and that is the Cincinnati Bengals and Jamar Chase. He had one of the best rookie seasons in the history of football. His efficiency was off the charts, which normally is a good thing, but for some reason, something's screaming at me it's going to be real tough for him to replicate all of his accomplishments. He was fourth in the league with 1,455 receiving yards, but he was 20th with 81 catches. He had 13 touchdowns. So he caught a touchdown on just about one of every 6 catches was in the end zone. That's good for fourth in the league. And in terms of efficiency, he was top 10 in just about every category you could find. Man, a lot of his plays were broken plays and he'd slip one tackle and then he's off to the races. And in the NFL with defenses, I think it's going to be tough for him to do that again. I don't think he's going to have a huge drop off. I mean, he's my wide receiver 5, I think. So obviously I think he's going to do well, but I think he can afford to not be as efficient and still be a dominant wide receiver. And he's not going to make it out of the first round of many fantasy drafts. And one last thing to note is he had 5 top 10 weekly finishes in fantasy. He also had 9 finishes outside the top 24 and 6 as wide receiver 30 or worse. Mike Williams, he had 5 finishes in the top 10, just like Chase. And he had 8 finishes as wide receiver 30 or worse. So those are comparable.
Why do you have to keep pushing Mike Williams on all of us?
Because nobody if I don't, who will?
Nobody wants to hear it. I had Chase at 4. He'll probably be a monster. Did you see his anger today?
I don't know.
Madden came out and he's not even listed in the top 10 receivers, and he saw it immediately and was not amused.
Well, he shouldn't be. That's a joke.
Yeah, not even in the top 10. And whoever was 10th was at a 91. So
Amari Cooper.
Is that who it was?
Yep.
So apparently the people in Madden don't have a whole lot of respect for the guy. So
well, yeah. I'm sure he'll go out there and prove them wrong.
Again, the problem there with him, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, is pick your poison week to week. There's going to be weeks where Burrow throws for 550 yards and all 3 of them blow up, most likely. But there's really weeks where he just really zeroes in on one or the other. a lot of it, I guess, depends on the defense they're playing, and I'd still take the guy in the first round, maybe early second.
Yeah, no, I'll take him in the late first for sure. And the reason I brought up Mike Williams is because the big thing against Williams is his roller coaster, right? Well, Chase has a similar roller coaster, and not a single human being is talking about it, at least that I've heard.
Was it roller coaster or more streaky? Because then he scored a touchdown in each of the first 7 games, then did nothing for like 6 games, and then blew up again at the end. Yeah, I don't know.
Which one, Chase? Yeah.
Yeah.
So why aren't we worried about that this year?
I don't know.
Okay.
You definitely want week to week, but I think his upside is so high that you just sort of ignore it. Whereas
Okay,
Mike
well,
Williams,
that's fair.
everybody's always hoped he's going to come around. He just never really put up what people had expected. That year, Chase just put up, man, if you can get 80% of that, you're still got one hell of a receiver there.
That's right. And the next guy for the Bengals is T. Higgins. He was a top 15 receiver in points per game, and the second Bengals receiver after Chase to top 1,000 yards last year.
Yeah, he
also had 6. Oh yeah, he also had 6 touchdowns. And here's what I'm talking about in terms of Chase's efficiency. Higgins had a better catch percentage than Chase, but instead of catching a touchdown every 6 balls thrown to him, he scored every 12 catches. So I think that stat gives Higgins more of a chance to improve, and Chase finished probably around where his ceiling would be. And T. Higgins is huge. He's 6'4", 220-ish. And Higgins had 3 top 10 wide receiver finishes last year. These guys, I think they're both going to end up as wide receiver ones when the season's done.
Right now, they're going 4th and 12th.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. It could happen. I mean, I think they run pretty different route trees, don't they? I don't think that they're overly similar, are they? I've not looked it up, but
I haven't either, but I can't imagine that it is the same because they have different skill sets, right?
Very
Higgins is a
different
monster.
Skill sets, body shapes, all that stuff. So yeah, he could be good. And then you throw in Tyler Boyd, who on a lot of teams, I wouldn't say be the number 1 there, but definitely a viable number 2. And he's their he's their 3, and he had games too where he completely blew up.
He ran the most routes out of the slot last year of anyone in the NFL. And he was 8th in target separation, which I thought was pretty interesting. So he can get himself open.
Where is he? He must be really far down. Oh, he's going as a 51st receiver.
Yeah, he finished as wide receiver 32 last year.
Going in the 11th round.
He's a wide receiver 3 being drafted as a wide receiver, what, 5, 6?
Yeah.
5?
Crazy. Yeah, I don't know. That's interesting. I wouldn't have thought he'd be that low, but I wouldn't mind having. I wouldn't mind having any of the 3 of them. I just don't know how high I would go or what I would do.
Do we care about Hayden Hurst?
I don't.
Okay. I can't imagine it. Yes, there's a lot of passes to go around in Cincy, but I just can't imagine there's a lot for the tight end as well.
He's going 25th.
Yeah, it's low.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Let's move on to Cleveland. We got 2 more teams left. Amari Cooper, please help me understand why Amari Cooper is on the 3rd team in his career. He's never had less than 96 targets. He's gone over 1,000 yards receiving 5 times, including 3 the last 4 years. His quarterback's rating when throwing to him has never been lower than 96. He's not the best wide receiver in the league, but as far as real football players, he's certainly top 15 or 20. I'm not sure why teams keep trading him.
The first time was money and the rebuild of the Raiders trying to get what they could. But this time, like Jerry said, he just never really produced the way we thought he would. Like, what did you think he was going to do? 3,000 yards, 58 touchdowns in one season? The dude's been pretty studly for them. I don't know what Jerry was expecting.
But now Jacoby Brissett, I mean, when he was quarterback for the Colts in 2017, his wide receiver 1 was T.Y. Hilton, and he finished as wide receiver 18. And then in 2019, when Brissett was a starter again, T.Y. got hurt, but he was on pace for like 70-ish catches, 800 yards. And it's not going to happen for him this year. I can't rank Cooper any higher than the lowest wide receiver 2, but he's probably going to end up in the wide receiver 3 range for me.
Okay. Where's he going? I haven't even looked.
That I don't know. You check that out. Donovan Peoples-Jones,
23rd.
I don't really care about him, but I will say quickly, David Bell, I do like, rookie from Purdue. His measurables aren't great except his size, 6'1", 210. I like that, but he didn't test well. But he had 93 catches and almost 1,300 yards as a senior. And we mentioned this before, Browns coach Kevin Stefanski said on draft day, no matter what, they needed to walk away with David Bell. And they did. They got their guy. So I can't imagine they're not going to use him this year. I think he's going to be the wide receiver too.
Yeah,
Even as a rookie.
they definitely expect a lot of him. I don't know how much they expect in his year one. And if you have Brissett throwing to you, then that's just going to be a nightmare in general. Cooper's going 23rd, 57th overall. So late,
too high
late
for me.
5th round. That seems about right.
Too high.
But he's got to just be hating life. These guys that are in Cleveland, that whole team, man, they just, I can't imagine how they all feel knowing full well that their whole season is resting in somebody else's hands right now.
I know. And David Njoku, tight end for Cleveland. I don't care about
never
him.
Know.
I mean, he's never had more than, or he's only had more than 36 catches once in 5 years.
Yeah.
I mean,
he'll have 2 touchdowns in 1 week and we'll have another one the rest of the season.
And I don't know if we mentioned this, but Jacoby Brissett's still in the football, so that's not good.
Did you say that? I didn't know if we
I don't know.
that.
Maybe. I can't. Who knows? All right, Steelers. Deontay Johnson. He finished as the 9th best receiver in half-point PPR fantasy leagues last year. But I am finding it difficult to see him repeating that effort. Not without Big Ben and his 6.2 yards per attempt. He's just staring at Deontay every play, giving him the second most targets in the league at 169 targets last year. And the Steelers threw the ball 663 times. That's 150 more attempts that Trubisky's ever had in a full season. And this is not the offense the Steelers are going to run. I could see Pittsburgh trying to air it out a little more when they do pass, not those little dink and dunk slants to Deontay every play. Trubisky's got a bigger arm than Roethlisberger, which isn't saying much, but he can throw downfield. And so if I'm predicting the Steelers to throw less, and then that means Johnson's 107 receptions are going to drop. And if I'm also predicting Najee Harris to be used more in the red zone, which I did, then Deontay's 8th highest red zone targets, they're going to drop as well. He's my current wide receiver 18, and that's about as high as I think I'm going to be able to get on him.
He has ADP right now. He's 13th, 39 overall, so very early 4th round. I could buy that. I mean, I'm not saying I'd necessarily want him, but I can buy where he is there. I think you might have him a little low. I don't trust the offense in general. I think you're right. There's no way he'll repeat all that. Pickens, from what I've read, hasn't looked real great so far in training camp. He's probably at least a year till he really contributes. Claypool's Claypool. He'll have those huge weeks. He'll have those weeks where they don't even look at him. I do wonder if they'll try to diversify a little bit more as opposed to Big Ben picking one guy to throw to 3,000 times a game. I don't know that Omar Epps and those up there really were ever going to tell Ben you need to stop doing that. I think Ben just sort of ran the offense how he wanted to, and that's just the way it's going to be till he retired. I don't think Mitch or Pickett will have nearly as much leeway if they start zoning in on Johnson constantly, especially if it's not working like it didn't work all that well last year. So this will be an interesting offense to see. I mean, we've had Big Ben since 2005?
Something.
So, 4 or 5, I think. So, or 3. I don't know. Was when he drafted the same year as like Phillip Rivers and Eli? Didn't they all go in the same year?
I don't know. I'll look it up right now.
Okay. Well, you don't have to. I think they did. It'll be just really be interesting to see how this offense is going to run without the centerpiece of it for the last 17 years.
2004.
So that'll be an interesting thing to watch there.
I think Chase Claypool, obviously, if I take him, it's one of the last picks of the draft. I don't even know where his ADP is, if he even has one. But what if he's Trubisky's guy? What if Trubisky just decides, hey, I like to own this big dude. He's fast. This is Claypool's, 3rd year?
I believe so, yeah, isn't it?
What year was it when Martavis Bryant broke out? And what's the difference between Claypool and Bryant? Aren't they similar builds?
Yeah, I guess, they're both big,
tall, skinnier.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's interesting. That Claypool might not be the worst end of your draft dart throw.
The problem with Claypool, or I think the way people think about it, is he had those 2 huge weeks in a row his rookie year. And aside from that, he's just not done anything that super spectacular. Even that year, he had like 5 touchdowns in 2 games. Well, he had 9 on the whole season. And then last year, he had 2 touchdowns. Granted, he had noodle arm thrown to him, but I think he's just extremely overrated because, one, it's wide receiver university there for the Steelers. And because he had those couple big games in a row, they just expect a lot more out of him than what he's really able to give. I don't know that I could trust starting him every week. And you said you didn't know if he has an ADP. He does have one.
It's how low is it? 50s, 60s?
It's down there. It's he is 42nd, 105 overall. So you're talking late 9th round.
No way.
Late 9th.
I mean, I believe that's what it is, but not.
The funny thing is one of the, I think, 5th highest paid receiver in the entire NFL is 1 slot behind him, Mr. Christian Kirk.
I thought it was going to be Kenny Galladay.
Nope.
Because he's getting paid a pretty penny as well. I have Claypool as my wide receiver 60 right now.
Yeah, they've got 42. 60's Christian Watson.
Oh, I like him.
Yeah, we do love him.
All right, last one. Last guy, last pass catcher, Pat Freiermuth. Whoa, Pat Freiermuth. Last year's tight end 13 on the back of having more red zone targets than any tight end in the league. And he turned 7 of them into touchdowns. He's currently tight end 12. So people are thinking he's going to do, I guess, just exactly what he did last year. Trubisky's never been one to really pepper his tight end with targets. So I don't know. This is another guy I'm not excited about. This is when I punt the position and take him in the 12th round.
And you can see where most people do. He's the 12th tight end, but going at 110. That's 10th round. So, people are punt. Just wait. You eventually have to get somebody because you don't want to be left with absolutely nobody and just basically take 0 to 2 points every week. But is this a guy that I'm going to spend a lot of money on or a lot of draft capital on? Absolutely not. He's another one, though. He has some big weeks where he'll have the 2 touchdowns one week, but won't score for 5 more. And how will he be used now?
Right.
I'm telling you, this to me, I know most people aren't really talking about. To me, this is one of the more interesting offenses in the league because of the change at quarterback.
Which quarterback? We're assuming it's Trubisky.
We don't even know which one. Yeah, we don't even know.
Right.
It could be musical. Right. Omar Epps might decide week to week which guy he likes better, and he'll get up there and use all this big 7-syllable words and
you really hammer that on Omar Epps
reporters and tell them we play football here, young man. I'm playing with the best football player gives this team the best chance to win. If I have to step out onto the field and make a punt return, punt returner have to move to the side so my guys can tackle them, then I'll do that.
Okay, that's you just can't get over that, can you? It's been like a decade.
I don't know how they got away with it.
I don't either, to be honest with you. That was pretty wild.
It was weird, wild stuff. And even after the game, he's acting like it's no big deal. That's just normal that you start walking out on the field as the guy's returning a punt return for a kickoff so that you can push him right into the oncoming tackler. Very odd.
All right.
I wish he had stayed on house. He was much better when he was on house. He played a good doctor. Man,
really hammering that Omar Epps thing, aren't you?
I hate the Steelers so much. Okay. I wear it on my sleeve.
Well, folks, thank you if you stuck with us this long. It's much appreciated. We do understand that we get off the rails a little bit. If you have any questions, please shoot us a message on Facebook or Twitter. We will answer. Our tunes are by Flatline. Again, thank you for listening. Check us out on Spotify, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. And we're at GYBR_podcast. Again, it's at GYBR_podcast. Kevin, nice talking with you, my friend. Nice talking with you.
Yeah, it was nice talking with you, per usual, friend. We'll see you all folks next week, or actually later this week.
Yes, got to double it up this week.
Yes, sir.
See ya.
See ya.